Gal Kadosh, woke it on, Masechet Menahot, Daf Yomi, Daf Nun Gimel Amud Aleph, 53a1, says the Gemara. זאת תורת המנחה הקרב אותה בין הארון לפני השם בין המזבח ונוטל ממנו יאכלו אברון ובניו מצות תאכל. Amar lei, so he comes and he explains the question like this. Mitzvah lo kami baili. I'm not asking how do you know that there's a mitzvah that all the menachot have to be matzah. Ki kami baili leakev. The question is it meakev or not? Meaning, if I made it chametz, is it meakev or not? Everyone, all the menachot have to be matzah, except for shtei alechem on Shavuot, except for the korban todah. Part of it was chametz, but is it me'akev if I made them chametz? I made them chametz. So now what? So Amalei le'akev namiktiv. It says lo te'afeh chametz. You're not allowed to make a chametz. Ela matzah. It has to be matzah. So in the Bet Mikdash, the majority of all kohanim, matzah you're eating every day, right? So matkif la Rav Chasta. Rav Chasta comes and he asks, be'ema.
Like that is because when it's Pesach, we will be able.
No. That was just always. That's the way it was. It was always done like that. Yeah. So he comes and he says like this. He says, right, matkif la Rav Chasta ve'ema lo te'afeh chametz ela shiur. Right? He says maybe it's an isa that it could become chametz. So, they didn't finish basically. So shiur deman, who according to who? If it's Rabbi Meir or if it's according to Rabbi Yehuda, matzah ma'alyahi. So it's a real matzah. If it's going to be according to Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Meir, chametz ma'aliyah, then it's mamash chametz. So he says, Id Rabbi Meir, right? And he says, Id Rabbi Meir or Rabbi Meir, midalek aleh chametzu. So then that's considered chametz. So he says, but rather he says the kavanah of the shiur is according to Rabbi Yehuda, that if it's got like stakim, if it's got like cracks and things like that, according to Rabbi Yehuda, he says that it's not considered chametz. So matkif la Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, ve'ima lo te'afeh chametz ela chalut. So okay, don't eat it chametz, only chalut. Chalut is basically when you throw it immediately into boiling hot water. That's called chalita. Sometimes they do that. Yeah, sometimes they do that exactly for bagels and things like that, and then it keeps the shape and everything. In a sense, so it says chalut ma'nihu revicha. That's called revicha. Seidika revicha ktiva revicha. Ve'lo ktiv revicha. It's not. So he says ve'ima dichtiv revicha. Right, mitzvah revicha. It's a mitzvah, and if it's not written, so if you want, you could do it, and if you want, you could do a matzah. So matkif la Ravina. Ravina comes and he asks ve'ima lo te'afeh chametz lemekan gavra bela ve'alma. Just stam that you have a negative commandment. Ve'ifsulu lumaz, but it's not going to make a pasul. Meaning, okay, fine, don't make chametz. But it's not that it's going to become pasul. So okay, fine. The guy went and he did an avira. He did a chametz. But not that it's pasul. So yeah, elaminal, how do we know it from? Because the Tanya we learned to the Braita, matzah. What does that mean? Yachol mitzvah. I would have thought to say that it's only a mitzvah to do it. It has to be a matzah. הכתוב קבע חובה. So בא מיני רבי פרידה בן אבא, ממיני לכל מלאכות של ראשים משמרים למלאכות. How do you know then that all the melachot, they used to do the nilosh, they used to knead it, right? Knead with a K, yeah? Kneading, yeah? Knead it with poshrin, with lukewarm water, umishamran, and they used to make sure that it wouldn't become chametz. נלמדנה מפסח, we learn it from מלאכות פסח, דכתיב ושמרתם גם מצות. So he says, amale begufa ktiv, it's written, matzah tiyeh, hechayeh. What does that mean? Right? That you have to make it that way. They have to make sure that it stays matzah. So he says, va'pikte la'akev. He says, I thought you told me that it's me'akev. So you can so lichtov krab, matzah hi, ma'itiyeh, shvamina tarta. It's coming to teach you the two halachot, that it has to stay like that as well. So you have to actually come and make sure that it's not become chametz. So they used to make sure that mamash, they used to make sure it wasn't chametz. Yeah, so Amli le Rabbanan Rabbi Rabbi Ezra, Berei de Rabbi Avtalus, de Hu Ashil Asiri le Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah, to Asiri le Ezra, Kaya Bava. Right? Wow, this is going back upwards. Look at that. You have Rabbi Ezra, that he's the son of Rabbi Avtulos, that he's 10 generations to Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah, which is 10 generations to Ezra Sofer. So they're going all the way up. Imagine. Okay? Kaya Bava was at the entrance. Amar, he said, Michael, what does that mean? Ibarur Yanhu, if you're going to tell me he's a Ben Torah, so yeah, so then it's good that you're telling me that he comes from such a good genealogy. Ibarur Yanu Baravan, if you're going to tell me that he's Ben Torah and also Ben Gdolim, so it's good. But if he's just a Ben Gdolim but he's not Ben Torah, Isha Tichle, fire will consume him. Meaning you're telling me that he's coming from such a lineage of Chachamim and he's not a Ben Torah, fire is going to consume him.
But why did you say this?
No, that's why. So that's what he says. He says if it's a, yeah, he says basically if the guy's a Ben Torah, kol hakavod. So I don't need it. If he's a Ben Torah and good lineage, kol hakavod. But if he's got a good lineage but he doesn't have Torah, fire is just going to consume him. So what are you saying? So Amru, they told him no, Barod Yanhu, he's a Ben Torah. Amalu le'al v'letet, so tell him to come inside. Chazida ve'achira dateh. So he saw that he wasn't, yeah, he was like bad, which he wasn't tsar. that he didn't even care about the forefathers. So Patach ve'amar, he went and he said, Amart la Hashem, Hashem tovati balalecha. Right? This is the one in Michtam. Right? אמר לה השם, השם טובתי בא לך, אמרה כנסת ישראל וקדוש ברוך הוא במימונו של עולם, החזק לי טובה שהודעתיך בעולם. You have to tell me thank you that אני מפרסם אותך בעולם. אמר לה, he said, טובתי בא לך, איני מחזיק טובה לאברהם יצחק יעקב. You're only going to be מחזיק טובה to אברהם יצחק יעקב. שהודיענו תחייה בעולם, שנאמר, לקדושים אשר בארץ המה. These are לקדושים אשר בארץ, meaning the אבות הקדושים. והדינים, כל חפצי בם, all the ones that are רצונם. So to be מחזיק טובה. So כיוון דשמע דקאמר, once רבי עזרא understood and he was מזכיר רבי פרידה, and he says, אדיר, פתח ואמר, יבוא אדיר ויפרע לאדירים מאדירים מאדירים. So רבי עזרא comes and he explains, יבוא אדיר זה הקדוש ברוך הוא. תכתיב אדיר במעון השם. ויפרע לאדירים אלו ישראל, שנאמר ואדירי כל חזיבם. מאדירים, these are the מצרים, דכתיב, צללו כפר מים אדירים. באדירים אלו מים. Right, שנאמר מכל מים רבים, אדירים משמי ים. So therefore it comes out that the מאמר that רבי עזרא said, is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to pay the exact retribution from the Mitzrim. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Adir. So he says, Yavod Yedid ben Yedid, Vivne Yedid li Yedid, Bechelko shel Yedid. Yeah, this is a song, by the way. Right? Yavod Yedid ben Yedid, right? Bechelko shel Yedid, Yitkapru b'Yedidim. Yavod Yedid is Shlomo Melech. Right? But he's called the Yedid. תכתיב וישלח ביד נתן הנביא ויקרא את שמו ידידיה בעבור השם. Okay? Nun gimel ubet. Ben Yedid is Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu is called a Yedid. 53b. Right? He says, Dichtiv mele Yedid. What is my Yedid doing in my house? Vivne Yedid is going to build a Bet HaMikdash, but it's called my Yedidom Eshkenotecha. Li Yedid is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because he's our treasure, he's our friend. Right? Dichtiv Ashir Ana Yedidi. בחלקו של ידיד, אז בנימין, שנאמר לבנימין, נאמר לידיד השם, לשכוב בבית החלב, יתכפרו ידידים, ישראל לכתיב, נתת את ידידות נפשי בכף אויביה. So you see from here, that again, in Rabbi Ezra, he's coming teaching you that a Melech Shlomo, that's coming from Avraham Avinu, is going to build the Bet HaMikdash for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the Chelek of Yedid, and the Kapru Bo Yisrael, that they're all Yedidim. Everyone's Yedidut. A third one that he comes and he says, Yavo Tov Yikabel Tov Mitov Letovim. These are all... These are all because basically he was upset that they didn't pay attention to his lineage. So he's coming down, he's speaking about how important it is, the lineage is. So he says, Yavo Tov, Vikabel Tov, Mitov Letovim. Yavo Tov is Moshe Rabbeinu, but it says, Vateroto Kitovu. Kabel Tov is the Torah, Ki Tov Natati Lachem. Mitov is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Dichtiv Tov Hashem Lakol. Hashem is good to everybody, so Hashem is Tov. Latovim is Yisrael, Dichtiv Etiv Hashem Latovim. So again, it's teaching us that Moshe Rabbeinu is going to come and receive the Torah from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, give it to Yisrael, that everyone's Tovim. יבוא זה ויקבל זאת מזה לעם זו. יבוא זה זה משה רבנו. תכתיב כי זה משה האיש. תקבל זאת זו התורה. תכתיב זאת תורה של משה. מי זה? זה הקדוש ברוך הוא. תכתיב זה לימים. לעם זו אלו ישראל שנאמר למזו קנית. So therefore he comes and he says like this. אמר רבי יצחק says רבי יצחק. בשעה שחרב בית המקדש, when הקדוש ברוך הוא destroyed בית המקדש, when הקדוש ברוך הוא אברהם, he saw אברהם אבינו שהם בבית המקדש, אמר לו, he says, מלא ידידי בביתי, what are you doing in my house? אמר לו, על עסקי בני באתי, I came from my children. אמר לו, he told them, בניך חטאו וגלו. Right? Your children sinned and they were exiled. אמר לו, he says, שם maybe they did it בשוגג. אמר לו, he says, עשותם זימתה, they did it במזיד, in the כוונה. אמר לו, he says, שם המיעוטן, maybe it was only minority. אמר לו, הרבים, it was a majority. היה לו להזכיר ברית מילה. He says, why? You should have remembered the ברית מילה. אמר לו, ובשר קודש יעברו מעליך. Right? They were מעביר the ברית מילה from themselves. They were מושך חולתם. They took it off. אמר לו, he says, שמא אם המתנת להם, maybe if you would have waited, they would have done תשובה. אמר לו, he says, כי רעכתי אז תעלוזי. He says, what? I was, they were not being חוזר בתשובה. מיד הניח ידיו על ראשו ויצעק בו, he started crying. ואמר לו, and he says, שמא חס ושלום, he said, what? There's no תקנה for them? יצא בת כה ואמרה, זית רענן לפי פריתו, על קורא השם שמך. מה זית זו קרדו בסופו? He says, the זית, at the end, there's going to be a תכלית. So to Israel, they're going to come to the תכלית at the end. They're going to be able to do תשובה. לכל המולה גדולה, הצית אש עליה וראו דליותיו. אמר רבי חנין בר פפא, לכל מיליהן שמרגלים. We're talking about Moshe Rabbeinu sent them מרגלים. נתעורר דליותיהן, that's why they him, there was broken the branches of ישראל. תאמר רבי חנין, דבר גדול דיברו מגלים יותר שעתי. He said something, כי חזק הוא ממנו, אל תקרא ממנו, אלא ממנו. What does that mean? כביכול שאפילו בעל הבית אני יכול להוציא כליו משם. He says, כאילו that he's so strong, the people there are so strong that not even HaKadosh Baruch Hu could go with the people of Eretz Canaan. So that was the Lashon Hara of the מרגלים.
This is for the lineage.
So מתקיף לרב חייא ברב חנינא, so asked רב חייא ברב חנינא, היי לכל המום הגדולה לכל מילה מבעלה, אלא אמר לקדוש ברוך הוא לאברהם, כל אחד שמעתי וחלמתי עליהם. אני אמרתי שעבדו בארבע מלכויות, כל אחד ואחד כשיהיו ארבע מלכויות, אשתא כל אחד ואחד מהבסק לה. He says, I told them that they're going to be משועבד to four different kingdoms, and each one is going to be there. So ויקדם, and some people say, אני אמרתי בזה אחר זה, עכשיו בבת אחת, now it's all going to be one. So רבי יהושע בן לוי, למה נמשלה ישראל לזית? Why בני ישראל are considered like a zait, like an olive? אמר לך, to tell you, just like the olive, עליו נושרים, לא ממותו, it doesn't come off the leaves, not in the summertime and not in the wintertime. So to Israel, they're not going to be בתלה עולמית, לא בעולם הזה ולא בעולם הבא. פעם רבי יוחנן said, למה נמשלה ישראל לזית? אמר לך, to tell you, just like the zait, אני מוציא שימנו על ידי כתיצתה, when you come and you take out oil, you have to crush it. So to Israel, they don't do חזרה בתשובה, אלא על ידי ייסורים. When we have ייסורים, you give them the makot, that's when they come and they're going to start doing teshuvah. Rabbi Meir says, "Haseor bodel ayinu mitochanu mechamitzan." So the sword is going to come and is going to make it into chametz. My chasido made that. What is the extra and what is less? Okay, so Amar Chasta says, "Chasta Isa seor ava." Isata seor is going to be very very thick because it's going to be very little water. נמצאת יתרה מידת היסרון, so there's going to be more מיסרון. רכה is going to be חסרה. סוף סוף כי כקייל, יסרון כקייל. Yeah, but he says at the end of the day it's יסרון. So כמות שהן הייתה משערינן. They used to do it like the way that it is now. ולשקול פרוטו, so he says, why don't you just make it a little bit and make a chametz outside? ולת נשאר בדן. They just do the nilosh afterwards, knead it afterwards. So he says, גזרה דילמה תלייתויה מעלמא. Maybe you're going to bring it from outside and it's going to be from somewhere else, so therefore we didn't want you to do such a thing.